I have been coaching for 30 years, so I know how many great resources there are out there. I tried to bring them together at teachhoops.com. Let me help you become a better basketball coach. All sorts of great resources on there. And even the best part is the community, the one-on-one calls with me, office hours, you name it. You know, I've been there. You can see behind all the balls. You can see a couple of my players have played in the NBA. I am here to help. I am here to serve. So go over and check it out. Click above, down below, teachhoops.com. Enjoy the video. All right, welcome to Coach Unplugged. I got Coach Torbett here. So I'm super excited about this from a couple standpoints. Selfishly, I started running Read and React about 3 years ago. So I'm looking at my list. I think I have like 6 specific questions about Read and React, but we'll get to that.
Right.
All right, so Coach, I'm going to have you kind of introduce yourself, kind of talk about your basketball journey and kind of what got us to the point where we're sitting here talking today.
Right. My basketball journey began, let's see, I'll make this short and sweet.
All right.
There's not a lot there.
There's a lot.
Well, let's see, probably the pivotal point in my life was I was 6'1" as an 8th grader. Everybody thought I was going to be some big center, you know.
Right. Yep.
I think I grew 1 more inch or another inch and a half, and I found out there were plenty of people that could play inside better than me. So between my freshman and sophomore year, I spent the whole summer just dedicated to shooting only, and that kind of changed the course of my life. I wound up being a pretty good shooter, good enough to go and play at the next level. You know, NAIA, played at Cleveland State Junior College. Then I played at Bryan College.
But there's a very valuable lesson there, especially for the youth coaches, I think, in the sense that I believe everyone should be a guard until they're about 14 or 15. Because
absolutely.
don't you? I mean, we can get into the positionless thing, but everybody that's listening to this, I bet can think about that kid that grew in elementary school and was the tallest kid on the playground and then just stopped. We all can probably name like 2 or 3 of those kind of kids.
And Steve, that is why I include that in the story.
Right.
I mean, it hindered me. The way I was pigeonholed early on through elementary and junior high, even as a freshman in high school. It's hard to overcome that, even if you're dedicated from there on. Just because in college I'm a 2 guard, and sometimes I'm a point.
Right.
And you're seriously
hindered, and it's like I've coached guys that have played in the NBA. I've coached bigs, and it's like, yes, I just keep telling them you might have to rebound more than you're going to rebound to the next level, but it will help. You know, if everyone can handle the ball, no one can press us, kind of things. But so then go ahead. So then I see you got into coaching.
Yeah, I stepped right out of college into a head high school boys job in public schools in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Chattanooga Central and Little Wall High School. And then I took a job in Atlanta at a private school, small private school. And then after a few years there, I went to Holy Innocents Episcopal School because they were starting a school from scratch, a high school from scratch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were kindergarten through 8, and I kind of thought, oh, that'd be cool to start, you know, from the beginning. And hey, I can't blame anybody but myself, you know.
Right, yeah. You know what's coming, yes.
Yep. So I was there for my last 11 years, and when I say that there's not much there, what I mean is, I think. Look, I mean, I had good years and I've had bad. I've had, never won a state championship, but made it to the Final Four a couple of times, and quite a few.
Somebody that's won it, it's lightning in a bottle. I'm convinced. It's like the kid that catches the firefly. Because my best team didn't win it. My best team had 3 Mr. Basketballs from Wisconsin, and we didn't win it that year, and then we won it the next year.
Wow.
Yes, I'm just it's
It's not the best coaches, not the best team. It's about those 2 or 3 weeks where you just catch lightning. It's Hoosiers kind of thing.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're exactly right. And I've been on the losing end. I've been
Right.
on those where I had my worst season was a 4-23. Yeah. That'll make you question everything.
You become very humble at that point. Yes.
I'm telling you, man. And I coached my hiney off, and I'll tell you, I thought I should have got Coach of the Year because we shouldn't have won those 4.
Right. Oh, I tell people my best record, we were 12-10. My best coaching season in 30 years of coaching, we were 12-10 because we had no right winning 12 games. We had 0, So that's why I tell coaches, it's not and I've told people this before. I think the problem with our profession is you're judged on quantitative values, because I see you're a math teacher. You're judged on quantitative values, not qualitative values.
That's right.
And as a coach, to be honest with you, I coach and teach because it's the qualitative things. It's not I want to win as much as anybody, trust me. But it's teaching young men or young women to become better people and life lessons and all that kind of stuff.
And that is the problem with coaching, is that you've got you're judging success qualitatively, and people that might be controlling your job,
right,
and your livelihood are judging it quantitatively.
Right.
They don't. There's a lot of things they don't take into factors. Because I tell you, when I say I made it to the Final Four, that's hilarious. Because I've never made a shot. I never defended.
Right.
You are right. Some really good players. And I remember the first trip to the Final Four, the night we won a lead 8 to go to the Final Four. You get all the backslapping and all that, right?
Yeah.
And one guy, friend of mine, said, just kind of as he's passing by, he says, and now you're a genius.
Yeah. Yeah, you know everything. You know everything. Right. Yes.
Tongue in cheek, because man, you just.
Okay, so all right, so you're still coaching there right now?
No.
Okay.
Excuse me. So there was a 2 or 3 year overlap in the early 2000s where a former assistant of mine wanted to start an internet company, sell DVDs, and I told him I would help and help him if he ever needed it. So he asked me for help, and he said, "I want you to do the basketball instructions." And I said, "Man, you're going to get like 3 sales. My mom, my dad, my sister. Right. Who am I?
Right.
And he said, "Well, he'd been with me for a while, and he said, I've seen you teach, and." He said, if I can get people to view the material, I think your ability to break it down will bring them back. So, hey, why not, right? So I gave it a shot. And we started with shooting, ball handling, post play, one-on-one, just player development stuff.
Right.
And this is in the, this is in the early 2000s. And then we got a few guests on our DVDs. Back then it was all DVDs.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was talking to Brendan yesterday. It was hilarious because it's like him and I were laughing about, I remember when I had 2 VHS tapes and 2 recorders and play, record, to break tape down. It's like, these guys don't know how good, now it goes up to crossover or huddle and it breaks it down. It's like, shoot, I'm still surprised I'm married, to be honest with you, all the time I spent breaking tape down, but
it was so time intensive. It was unreal.
Yeah.
And one of my stories talking about later as we get into the read and react, one year, I think it was 96, at the end of the season, I decided, hey, I'm going back and I'm statting all of my games myself. I wanted to see where all our points were coming from, try to categorize everything. Didn't want to depend on stats that some in the bleachers kept up with and missed while he was eating popcorn. So and folks, I don't think they appreciate what it took to go back and take a DVD. I mean, I'm sorry, VHS.
tape, right?
In that time, VHS. Fast
Right.
forward, rewind, pause, write down.
Right. And there's more than what they don't understand is there's more than one thing going on when you're watching on a thing. It's like there's a rebound, there's an assist, there's a turnover, it's like yeah. There's no iPad to hit a button and just
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh, something like a huddle or crossover, that would have just been
Oh yeah.
awesome.
I tell people it saved my life. It saved my marriage, saved my life. I'm in the basement. I'm not in the basement anymore breaking film down. Okay, so you started that. We'll get to the read react thing at the end because like I said, I do have a lot of questions.
Okay.
But so then that's obviously went from DVDs to
Yeah, well, we started, like I say, player development stuff. That's what I cut my teeth on. My first one was on shooting, naturally.
right.
And most of this, Steve, came from, I had coaching insights and that type of thing, but most of it came from my experience in personal training, while I was coaching. And that's where, if you're going to make a business out of that, you've got to actually, you can't just, you might start doing it off of the cuff, but eventually you got to, what's the word, codify?
You got to quantify it, and it's time for money too. It's like it's time for money too. And if you're not gonna be able to book all that time if you don't have, your lesson plans right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to go like step by step. I had to start writing things down and, hey, what works, what doesn't, and developing a player, and so that's what I was putting on the DVD, and we happened to start getting a few NBA and WNBA guests on the DVDs.
Okay.
Mike Bibby was the first one.
I remember that one. That one.
And then we got
Yes, didn't you have some young kid too? I think.
Oh, that was our ball handling.
Yeah.
Our ball handling, Andy Garcia. And by the way, he's just phenomenal with a basketball right now. He's in his mid-20s, I guess, and he's still in Laredo, Texas, and he's training. He's never stopped training other kids.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
He's got a training business.
Okay.
And he's just magic with a ball. But,
I remember him.
The thing is, the great story behind that is I had one DVD out shooting, Now I'm still coaching at the time. And in the summer, I have this guy from Laredo. It was Andy's dad, Andy Garcia. And he's, hey, could I convince you to come out here and train my son for a few days, maybe a week? And, well, if the price is right, I will, right? So this is kind of neat. I get to cross the Mississippi River and go to a place in Texas and move in. This is kind of neat. Yep. And kid just was a workout king. I mean, the kid could work all day on his game. But when I saw him handle the ball, I said, I made a guy on the phone, called my buddy and said, hey, I know what DVD number 2 is.
Yes.
7th grade, and he's just unbelievable with the ball.
Right. Yeah. Our Mr. Basketball this year, Jordan McCabe, who's going to Cincy, has been doing that since he was a little kid, and he's the same way. It's like, it's like magic what they do with the ball. So then it expanded from that stuff.
Yeah. I wound up with in 2000. By 2008, I think we had 7 or 8 player development DVDs, and that doesn't sound like much at the time, but when you do, at that time, we were doing things like the one-on-one video was 3.5 hours.
Right.
Because it wasn't just me on one-on-one. I also had Chauncey Billups. I had Rick Barry on it. I had Sue Bird. Folks like that on.
And it was a different era too. You weren't shooting it on your phone. The editing was iMovie wasn't. I'm just saying, people think now it's like, oh, I can just shoot a video and edit. It was a different world back then, editing wise too, and all that stuff, and technology and taping and cameras and.
Yeah, you had to send your DVD off to be mastered and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But during that, so the transition is. back in 03 and 04, in that same place, Andy Garcia in Laredo, Texas, had put together a camp where he had recruited 15 just handpicked players from everywhere, a couple of European pros, about 5 or 6 college players, and the remaining 10 or 8 or 9 were high school, but they were from everywhere. I had a kid from Greece and Michigan and just from all over.
All over.
And they all came with a pedigree. You know what I mean? Like they were
the best of the best.
It was a 4-week camp.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, by the way, Steve, never do this, okay?
I've gone to the PGC camp. I've gone to Mono's camp to watch, and I'm tired after 4 days, and I'm just watching.
We were so ambitious. I did like so we lived in the same motel, hotel,
right.
And our schedule was from 9 to 6, 5 days, and then half a day on Saturday.
Yeah.
And the kids went at night. They went to the local workout gym, physical gym, to do to be trained in weights and speed, agility, quickness, and
that's crazy.
First of all,
youth is wasted on the young. I'm telling you, I used to do that stuff. I go from camp, I jump in my car, I go to the next camp, I jump in my car, I go to the next camp. Yeah, it just makes me tired thinking about it.
Oh yeah, but poor kids, man. About middle of 3rd week, they got 1 gear.
Right.
I mean, they're just about toast. But we did all. You do all the player development stuff, and then you come back from lunch. We had to take like a 2-hour for lunch.
Right.
We had to, and for them to recover, and then we'd come back for another 4 hours, and we always finished it with clock and referees and games. And he had the owner of the camp had scheduled. I'll give you an example. He had scheduled the 2nd-tier Olympic team. Mexico's Olympic team to come across the border and play us.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going like, okay, what am I going to teach these guys? Flex?
Right. Right.
These are all every one of them's like a gunslinger. Like,
right.
Hey,
they're all the best players on their team. Yeah, they're all the best players on their team.
That's right. And so I'm thinking, what am I going to – and that's where the Read and React was birthed, and what I saw there just made me a believer. Let's just put it that way.
Right. And so just from a historical standpoint, so that's when you came up with the idea.
Yeah.
When did we get to the point where you felt confident that you actually had something that was, because like anything, there's the first light bulb and then there's the last light bulb.
Yes. I didn't even have a name for it in 03.
Right. Okay.
And see, I was going back to coach at that time.
Right. Yeah. You're just trying to keep the ship moving. Yeah.
Here's what's so weird is it was at that time that the company Better Basketball just took off.
Okay.
Woo took off. My partner said, look, we got to either fish or cut bait, because you've either got to go full time if we're going to make a go at this, or he can't do it by himself. And so I said, man, I put together this system that, I'm absolutely convinced. Well, anyway, so I was not able to take it back to my team. So the next summer we had the same camp, whole different group of kids. And I said, okay, I got to test this again. All right.
Right.
Maybe it was a function of the kids, right?
Right. Yeah. You don't know. You're experimenting. Yeah.
Right. So this time I went in, I didn't have to discover it.
Right.
I went in from the beginning, right? And it's like, holy cow. So as soon as that 4 weeks was up, I called every friend that on every level of basketball still coaching and said, look, I got something. Don't even have a name for it. But and I can try and describe it, but if you want it, I'll show it to you, but I'm pretty sure it's a game changer, Right. I think it'll give you an edge, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Well, Steve, just think about you. Who would you call? Look, the people I called trusted me that, I'm not even coaching at the time, right?
Right.
And so I had high school, middle school, girls, boys, veteran coaches,
Right. You wanted to send it out to the world to see what happens too. It's like,
Yes.
it's your first model. You got to send it out and
Yes.
see if the light bulb works or not too.
And so first I gave it to them in notes. Guess
Right.
what? They couldn't do it.
No.
Every time it was like, Rick, you're going to have to come and show us. I'd work with them through the summer, or come work with them during their season. And that's when it dawned on me, okay, if I'm going to transfer this, I can't do it with notes and that type of thing.
Right.
With drawings or diagrams. I'm going to have to put this on like a DVD or
Right.
that type of thing. And so it was really, so for 4 years, Steve, those coaches convinced me to put it out, to get it to public.
Right.
And one of them, he's retired now, Buster Brown. He had about the best girls record in high school in state of Georgia, all classifications during the 90s, won a state championship. And he said, Rick, I don't want you to, because I've got an edge now. This is
Right. Right.
But let's face it, he said, you've got something that the community needs to see. They need to get a hold of this.
Right.
And of course, the feedback that I was getting from these coaches was opening up, was just making me see other things.
Right.
Okay?
So that's the thing, is you got to put it out there to see. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And, you don't see it all at one time.
Right.
You don't. I mean, I'm not smart enough.
You can't see the trees through the forest sometimes. You're so, I mean, I've started small businesses too. You're so like this, you're so narrow. People are listening, aren't seeing this. I'm putting my hands over my eyes. You're so narrow minded because you see one thing, but there's 6 other things going on that you just can't see. Yeah.
Right. And something, this coach would teach it this way, and this coach
Right.
would teach it that way. And another coach would call me and say, something, I found if I taught this first, then this became easier. I was just getting all that kind of feedback, And I thought, all right, listen, I had another friend that said, if you try to wait until it's perfect, you'll never ship it.
Yes. Yeah. Because nothing's ever perfect. Yes.
That's right. He said, hey, ship it, get it out there. And I really am not trying to be, this is not a case of false humility. I really sincerely believe, and I still do, there are coaches that are just so much smarter than me on so many levels. If I could just get it out there and get it in their hands, they would see things that I didn't see.
Right.
And maybe we could all stand on each other's shoulders and kind of change the paradigm. This was kind of my vision.
Right.
This is kind of what motivates me, motivated me then, motivates me now, is the vision of, something, I may be able to impact the game for kids and coaches in a very positive way. Maybe make the game. I had just heard Kevin Eastman say in a clinic at Coaching You Live, okay, right in the middle of his time in the clinic, he stopped. Usually he's on the move while he's talking.
Right.
You know how he does.
Yeah.
And he just stopped and kind of, did this looking off into the wild blue yonder, and he said, look, let me tell you where the game is going. The game is headed where there are no positions. You're not going to see 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. You're going to see five players that can just play basketball. They're going to be multi-purpose, they can play in all positions.
Right.
And he said, now, I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're headed that way. Get ready.
Right.
And then he went on with the rest of his clinic. Of course, I'm in the stands about to blow a gasket going, I think I've got it.
Right. Right.
I've got the method to move the game to a positionless game. And by the way, now Steve, why I started that story the way I did.
Right. Yeah. I mean, has it really, see, people ask me about my record and all this kind of stuff, and I don't really think about that stuff on a day-to-day basis. Have you literally sat and thought that you've changed this game? Because you have. And I'm not throwing this around. I mean, 100 years from now, it's like the flex. It's like the triangle. People are going to, in the dribble drive, people are going to talk about read and react. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have. But it does, it
It's
humbles me.
mind-boggling. Yeah.
It is mind-boggling. Yeah, it has taken a life of its own, you know.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and some of the funnest, one of the most fun things about this is this movement is reading the stories of the coaches out there.
Right.
You know, they'll email me their stories and tell me what to do, and most of it, Coach. Now, look, it's really easy for me to tell you the quantitative ones.
Right.
But qualitative ones are so much fun.
Oh yeah, we make fun of you all the time, Rick. I'm telling
do
you.
you? Oh,
That's layer 47. Layer 47. I mean, my assistant coach can do. Nate's going to be listening to this. He can do a much better Rick than I can do. But it's like, you know, we just.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
But it's like there's. It is over. The number of layers is overwhelming at times. Like we have narrowed it to like 6 that we feel like we can really do well. And then we add things to that. You know, it's like adding potatoes to the soup or carrots or something. But we've narrowed it to about 6 that we think we can be pretty good at.
Well, you know, that came from, again, this is 6 or 7 years before I ever started experimenting with the Read and React. 2 things happened. There was a couple of things going on that kind of ingredients that went into the soup, you know?
Right, yes.
And one of them was we lost a game. We ended our season by not getting to the state tournament on a last-second shot with the best player I ever coached. Best player. He averaged 28 points a game, shot 53% from the three-point line, and signed with Florida State. And the only kid in the school history to play in the Georgia All-Star game. And I'm thinking, I can't get to the state tournament with this kid.
Right.
You know? Well, I must be an idiot. Well, so my assistant and I, Dan Knudsen, we were having our last supper, so to speak. Pun intended there.
Right.
And I said, all right, Dan, go ahead. Tell me what I did wrong, you know. And he said, I really just got one question. In the last 2 minutes of the game, when it was just back and forth and, you know, people were fouling out and this and we're trapping and nobody can run any of this stuff, did we have the best 5 basketball players on the floor? And I said, well, now, Dan, we had our best 1, our best 2, our best 3, our best 4, our best 5. He said, nah, that's not what I asked.
Hey, Coach, so glad you're enjoying the video. Make sure you subscribe. That's important. Second thing is make sure you go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. It's everything you need to become a better basketball coach. Go over and check it out. teachhoops.com. Let's head back to the video.
Did we have our best 5 basketball? And I said, Danny, if I did that, we can't run our system. And here it came. He said, maybe there's something wrong with the system that doesn't allow you to put the best 5 players on the floor.
Light bulb. Yep.
Boom. Yeah. And now he went on with other questions, but for me, it was like a thorn that got in my brain. And I remember thinking, where did I get this? Why do we have to have point guards and 5s and posts? And where do we even get this language from? Or what, you know,
right.
It just started making me question everything. Am I kind of blinded by tradition, you know? Right. Why can't we do that? Hey, when you go to play pickup, do you say, well, I'm picking you because we need a 3, a slasher? Right. No,
I know. And the thing is, and I've ever since we started doing it, I've been trying to think about where it started. Was it the Patino, Kentucky teams? Was it Magic? Was it Michael Jordan? I mean, because he had Cartwright, so he had a 5. I'm just trying to think of where the shift kind of happened, because usually it happens at the NBA and collegiate level before it gets down to us.
Right.
And I'm just trying. I really haven't been able to narrow when that, because if you look at Villanova, you look at the teams that were in the NCAA this year. It's like there's obviously some big boys out there that are probably quote unquote 5s, but they can all shoot. They can all handle the ball.
They can all pretty much play anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
What I loved about watching them is I'm telling you, they did some really good stuff. If you did not know the Read and React the way you and I do, Steve, you might watch Villanova and go, hey, I think they're running that Read and React thing.
Right. Oh, yeah. And you got to be able to shoot the ball though too.
That made shot covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it?
It does. And I tell my kids all the time, anybody can become a shooter. Not everybody can become a scorer, but shooting is just repetition. It's like lifting weights. You just got to get in and do it, All right, so we'll do this out of order. So I'm going to ask you my read and react question.
All right.
Great. And then we'll go back. All right. So, off-season recommendations. Do you have off-season recommendations for people that run read and react? Things that you can do.
Well, you just named it. I mean, yes, because as you know from experience, the read and react will create shots for you all over the floor. Yeah, layups, inside, 3-pointers, 2-pointers, you name the type of shot.
Right.
And getting good shots, good quality shots is not the problem. It's that ability to put the ball in the hole.
Right.
That's what.
Do you have a shot clock in Georgia?
No.
No. So we don't either. So there's times that we'll come down and it takes us 45 seconds to get one, which is crazy. And that might go into the second thing. How do I promote variety in decision making? Because my guys seem to do the same thing every time. They'll pass, they'll go screen. I mean, they tend to do the same thing every time. How do you get them to not be like robots, not running the flex offense?
Right. Well, and that's what you're trying to overcome, right?
Right.
For your listeners who are not as familiar as you and I are,
right?
There are two decision makers. There's more than that at one time, but two primary decision makers. One, and by the way, when I explain this explains the difference between the read and react and a pure motion offense. Even though read and react, you get all the benefits of motion. You create an athletic ball, you move players, you got spacing, and boom, good things happen. You break the defense down, and you train. This boils down to training players how to take advantage of breakdowns on defense. But the difference is, in read and react, the ball handler is the decision maker. Everyone else, as you know, must hold their spots, watch you, see what you do, and then they react with the one thing that we've all drilled them to do based on what's being done with the ball. If you drive right, they do something. If you drive left, they do something. If you blah, blah, blah. Okay. And that way you don't have 5 chiefs out there, right? You've got one chief. And then so that's one I want to discuss with you. The other one is, if a player gives up the ball, if they pass anywhere, an easy one would be somebody brings the ball up and they pass it to the wing. Yep. Right. And cut, right?
Yep.
Now, in read and react, again, the difference between a motion offense and read and react is that player must cut to the basket.
Right.
Okay. Not just cut anywhere, but to the basket, because they are our first scoring option. Okay. We're going to put pressure on the rim, but the moment that player's feet hit the lane, we allow them to become an independent decision maker. That's when we give them decisions back. At the point of the pass, no, they've got to cut.
Right.
But as soon as their feet hit the lane, if they've not gotten the ball, they can do a number of things. You name it, and of course we've got a layer for it.
We do.
But really, it's just all of the things that you could do in basketball without the ball if you were in the lane.
Right. Yep.
I could post up. I could screen for another post player and then get myself open. I could go back screen anybody on the perimeter. I could set a pin screen. I could use a pin screen. I could set or use a brush screen if another cutter's coming. I mean, this just goes on and on and on and on, right?
Right.
And now, so back to for the listeners listening, there's one decision maker with the ball that trumps everybody. But there's at least one other decision maker making decisions that could affect the next action, and it's that player who is either stopped and posted up in the lane or is cutting through the lane.
Right.
Okay. So now to your question, Steve.
Right.
decision making. Okay, so first we got to talk about which one we're talking about: ball handler or the one cutting through the lane.
Well, I think after they get rid of the ball, they tend to do the same. They cut, but then they tend to do the same thing. They'll either screen away or they'll. I mean, they get very. When I've charted it, they get very robotic. And the kid that posts up is the kid that posts up. He's not the kid that sets the back screen, or he's not the kid that brushes it. I mean, how do you break them of that habit?
Okay, great question. Great coaching question too. But I'm going to give you an analogy from jiu-jitsu. It's a wrestling type of submission sport that my instructor would teach one particular move. Okay.
Yep.
And of course, there's a counter move to that your opponent's got to do, right?
Right.
So you teach it, and then you set up the drill, and you do it, right? Well, immediately your mind goes to what ifs. Well, can I do this too? And then, but what if he does this? Can I do this? Very well. The instructor would never let us go on. Okay.
Okay.
Now there's a few really gifted people.
LeBron James is one of them. Yes.
That could go, oh yeah, I can see all of the options here and choose the correct one based on my opponent. But for the rest of us mere mortals, my instructor would say, no, I want you to do this one, this particular move, or this particular counter to that move over and over and over and over and over and over. And then once we could do it without thinking, then he went to the next one and said, okay, here's your next one, because that one's going to get stopped. So here's your next, and I want you to stay here and drill and drill and drill and drill. And of course I resisted and stuff, but over time, all of the options became habit, based on how my opponent is playing me, right? Well, analogously, I think you must give, and you could give all the cutters the same one, or you could customize it. Joe, when your feet hit the lane, I always want you to do blank. Okay.
Ooh, I like that. Like I have a kid. Like every time you go in, you should post up. No, every time you go in, you should look for a layup or screen away. Okay, I like that. And
Bill, since you are the best three-point shooter, I always want you hitting the lane and then back screening someone one pass away from the ball.
Right, because then you're ready for your three.
You're going to shape up to shoot, right?
Right.
It doesn't take Bill long to learn that one.
Yeah.
He's a shooter.
There has to be a benefit, though, sometimes, too. I have to show them that. It's like, if you set this screen, then you are going to be open, too. It's the, egocentric kind of.
What you just said might be the most important part of teaching the read and react.
Right.
I'm lying. What you just said may be the most important is how do you sell it?
Right.
You got to sell it to the kids like, look, hey, here's why you're not doing Bill's decision, Joe, because this is how we're going to take advantage of your strengths right now and hide your weaknesses. You're going to help our team by blank. You know?
Right.
Now, later on, Joe, we're going to add to this.
Right.
We're going to start developing. But for right now, I don't want you making, 6 different decisions in there.
Right.
I want you to always set a pin screen. I want you to always stop and post up in the short corner. You name it, right?
Right.
Now, once they get good at that, now I'm talking about the individuals.
Right.
Once they get that, then based on their strength and weaknesses, you go on and you add another one. But hey, let me give you a great example of this, okay?
Okay.
This was about 4 or 5 years ago. Delphi University, Division II up in New York, I think.
Yep.
They had a point guard come in. Her name was Ando Tron. I think she's coaching now, or she might still be playing over in Europe. She came in. Hey, Steve, this is the consummate point guard you want. Listen to this. I mean, she'd already watched, studied, knew the language of the entire read and react before stepping on the floor at a Delphi.
Right.
I mean, this is coach's dream.
Right.
Okay. He's coaching the other girls,
Right.
telling them what reactions they should be. I mean, it's like having a coach on the floor. Okay.
Right.
She's their best 3-point shooter, and she can get to the rim. Now, she's the smallest player on the floor, but she can get to the rim. She's fast. She's a good ball handler, goes right or left, best 3-point shooter. All right. The first 4 or 5 games was disastrous for her. So the coach called me and said, hey, could you do like a Skype with her, a little one-on-one, and just find out what's going on in her brain, you know? So I did, and I asked her, and she, because I'd watched the games, and I said, well, what seems to be your problem? And she said, look, when I hit the lane, and she started going through all the different things that she could do, and she was ticked that her teammates were not responding to this.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
each one of these, you know.
Yep.
Yes, my post is at the high post, coach. So when I cut to the basket, if I don't get it, then I turn and I make the Utah screen, and then
Right.
I'm looking to shape up. I mean, she's going into stuff like that, right?
Right.
And her center doesn't know what the Utah.
She-
You know what I mean?
Yes, it's simplifying the layers. Yes.
Yes. So she was just paralyzed by all the things, and why aren't they? And I said, okay. And listen, I'd love to tell you that was brilliant here, but this was a shot in the dark, and it worked. And I said, hey, let's try this, and then we'll get back together later. And I said, let's simplify things. I said, you're the smallest on the floor, right? She said, yeah. I said, well, I'll tell you what, when you hit the lane, I only want you to do one of two things. One of two, just two decisions. On the first one, go set a screen for your post wherever she's at. Now, they played their post everywhere.
Right.
High post, four corner, mid post, weak side, strong. I said, because they will not want to switch that, right?
Right. Yep.
Big, little with you, they will not
And
want
I want to switch that.
And I didn't have to tell her to play off of that. You know, after she sets the screen, she's going to take her next best action is going to be good, okay? And then I said, now, you're also the best 3-point shooter, right? And she said, yes. You know, I mean,
Right.
she knew. You know,
She
yes,
knew.
I am. And I said, then if you don't set a screen for your post, then go set a back screen for one of your teammates that are one spot away from the ball and shape up for the three. Okay, Steve, I never had to call back. We never had another call. That totally.
Because it's simplified.
Yes, and now she was decisive and aggressive
Right.
and intentional with
Yep.
her actions in
Yep.
there. Yeah, she went on to do some others, but just getting her started down a simple, for her, 2 decisions. Well, I think you can do that. I know you can do that with every one of your players. Give them one, start with one.
Right.
And by the way, someone watching your team,
They won't know.
no, they won't. Only you know what their decision is when they hit the lane, you know?
Right. Right.
And
And then you build on it. Then you build on the layers,
And you
because
build.
then it's like, okay, your season starts in November and ends in March. By December, you're maybe adding a second move, and then because and then you give them 2 or
That's
3
right.
weeks doing that, and then you add another one. It's perfect teaching things. I agree. I never had thought about that though.
And some kids, their cup's bigger than others,
Yes.
so you can put more in it.
Right.
This is why I can't put that. I'm just not good enough to put that on DVD. You know.
Right. Right.
You follow me? I
Yeah.
mean, I
and
can't
and
take
it's
you
like,
out and play.
and it's like, well, I'm a math teacher, like you're a math teacher. I saw. And anyway, it's like, I tell them the first week of school, I say, John here might spend 5 minutes on the homework, and Susie might spend 43 minutes on the homework. You can all do it. It's just, some of you have strengths in some classes and others, and that's where building on. I think that's perfect. All right, what would your ideal shot chart look for the Read and React? If I gave you a shot chart, what would it look like?
all inside the restricted arc.
You think so? Could that happen?
Well, no, it
No.
can't. Of course, it can't. But I'm basing that on the shot charts. If you look them up, online and stuff, you look at the numbers. The highest, the most points per shot you'll get are shots that are inside the restricted area.
Yep.
Because they also lead to free throws.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not just the 2 that you're getting. You're getting
Right.
foul. there as well. The next highest is the corner 3-point shot.
I know, that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? So counterintuitive. I know.
The stats teacher in me just thinks that's, I just can't, I know. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. I know.
Once I start watching, it's just unbelievable. You will go back and watch the NCAA tournament and just watch the corner threes. It's unreal.
So defensively, you should have a counter to that. I'm just thinking the other side of the court for the people listening is you got to take away that corner three.
You got to run. Hey, forget closeouts. You got to run people off of that. You know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to change their shot.
That, or they got to be in the second row of the bleachers.
That's right. That's right. The next highest is any other three.
Right.
The next highest, well, now we're getting to the lowest, is the mid-range jumper.
Which is lost. The game has lost it.
And this is going to surprise a lot of listeners, okay? But the lowest percentage shot is in the lane outside the restricted area. In the lane,
outside that charge. But people don't know it's the charge semicircle. Yeah.
Outside.
Wow.
Yes. Now the highest is inside.
Right. Because it's a layup, basically.
It's a layup. Yeah, it's right. You know, it's that third grade. We call it like a third grader can make.
I always tell my boys the easiest shot in basketball is the free throw. And they look at me and they go, "What do you mean? It's not easier in a layup?" I go, "Yes, it is, because it doesn't change. Layups change because you have defenders there. You could shoot in a free throw in Wyoming is the same as a free throw in Maine. They are the exact same distance. The rim is the exact same height. Nothing's changing.
But man, layups, is it off of 1 foot? Is it off of 2 feet? Where is my defender? What angle do I have on that?
Yeah.
Is there a help defender near me? Am I leaving the ground from the same spot? I mean, it's variables there.
There's a lot of variables. Okay, so last one on Read and React, then we'll get to a couple other ones I have. What cuts or actions do you think will give your team the most open looks? And my assistant sent me this one, and he said, "Don't take it depends" as the answer. So, John, if you're listening, that's for you. It says, what cuts or actions do you think will give your team the most open looks in the Read and React?
Now he said actions,
like a cut or a back screen or those kind of things. Actions.
Okay, so he's not saying one action. Okay.
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I don't think I can answer that.
No, but he says the ones you think are the best for getting good looks.
All right. Okay. I think it is.
And it's probably not the initial cut to the paint, because we have not had as much luck with that.
Sure. And by the way, would you remind me? Would you ask me about just cutting to the line in a minute? Yeah. I want to tell you something about that.
Okay. So the actions you think that will get the most open looks in the Read and React.
Yes. All right. The first two, and you know something, as soon as this podcast is over, I'll think of something. I'll come up with something else.
All right, you can send it to me. I'll put it in the show notes for the people that are listening. All right.
But here's how I'm trying to answer this. Okay. For the most teams on the most levels.
Right.
Okay. Because as soon as you start, that's why he doesn't.
And I would say most of the people listening to this are youth coaches and our high school coaches.
Okay.
So we're dealing with kids that are 10 to 12 to 18. I mean, there's other people that listen all over the world, but I mean, I would think that's the demographic that's listening to.
All right. We're talking percentages here. Okay. Yeah. The two actions, I'm going to say two. There's two. And it's, and one of these, well, both of these have varieties in them, but it's drafting. Drafting is, okay, so a team, let me give you a couple of examples. Steve, you pass the ball to me and you cut. You are on my right.
Okay.
And you pass the ball to me and cut. If I catch it and immediately drive right, as if I'm trying to follow you to the goal,
Okay.
like two race cars drafting each other. That's where
Okay.
we get to our draft. I'm
Right.
drafting you.
Yep.
The reason that gives more good opportunities is twofold here. One, you're taking away on your cut. And this is why, Steve, I don't care if you ever score on a passing cut. I really don't.
Does
But
it happen a lot? Because we have not been successful with that cut. That initial.
And that's what I want to talk about here in
Okay.
a second. There's
Okay.
multiple reasons for cutting and scoring is just one of them. You can't depend on that. No.
Right.
But
So back
see,
to the draft
if you are cutting after passing to me, and you're cutting as trying to get the ball back, legitimately trying to get the ball back, your defender's going with you and is guarding you all the way to the rim. Yes?
Yes.
Well, you just took the first natural helping defender to my right with you.
Okay.
There is no help defense on my drive going right now.
I agree.
In fact, the only help would be, let me draw a picture in everybody's mind. Let me back up. I'm at the top of the key.
Okay.
You're on facing the goal. You're on my right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you pass, you're passing uphill to me.
Yep.
And you're cutting, and I'm driving right. Now, if no one else is in the right corner,
right,
when I draft you, there's no help defense.
Right.
Because you've taken the only one that could help.
Could do it. Yeah. And it's got to be a cut that you want to score on.
Yeah.
Are my players listening to that? You got to want to score on that cut. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not false offense. You might be open if you cut really hard.
Right.
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 Okay. Now, let's rewind that. If there was a player, a teammate in the right corner, and you passed to me, cut, and then I drove right, I'm beating the next helping defender. And even at high levels, you and I know who's supposed to rotate in there and help.
Right.
But you know they don't get there.
They don't.
9 times out of 10. Now, let me back this up. I'm drawing a picture if you're drawing this out, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's back up again. You've got the ball on the wing. You throw uphill to me. You cut. Now, the moment your feet start moving, Steve, doesn't the guy in the corner, isn't he supposed to start filling up your spot?
He's supposed to rise up. Yep.
He's supposed to start. So he's starting to fill up as I'm starting to drive. Yes?
Right. Yes.
Now, we know from the redirect that if I drive right, he's supposed to move one spot to his right. So he's got to stop and go back to the corner. Yes?
Right. Yes.
All right. So I got a question for you. If his defender does rotate in there and stop me on my draft drive right behind you, I've got a natural pitch to the corner.
For a three.
Yeah. His defender's going to be wrong either way. If he stays, I'm getting to the rack with no help defense.
Right.
If he helps, we're throwing to the high percentage shot inside out.
Right. You just said the second best shot in basketball in that corner three. And then literally if I'm playing that position, my hands are like this.
Oh, absolutely.
Throw me the ball. Throw me the ball.
I put that in drills. I mean, that's a great combo drill.
Right.
It's a pass, cut, draft, drive, natural pitch drill.
Okay. So that's number one.
That's number one. Now, by the way, every time the ball is passed, there is a chance for a team, the receiver, to draft that cutter. That's why I'm picking that action. Okay? There's a chance. And also, I know that every cutter could be open, but you're talking about passing to them and them catching on the move and scoring. And as you and I know, and every listener knows, those are the weakest skills all the way around in the game of basketball. But most players like trying to get downhill on a drive, get to the basket.
Yep.
They're all practicing that.
And you're getting, and you know what? Okay. And I got a question I got to ask later. But you know what? And they'll get the foul call. I've noticed that the driver tends to get the foul call too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You just lean in on the person.
Right.
As long as
but the cutter doesn't. that's what we've noticed, that the cutter they tend to hold and bump and do that to the cutters,
and they
and
let
that
them do
doesn't
that.
get called.
And
Yeah.
boy, that is. I wish the whole officiating association could hear that.
Amen. I'm telling you, that's my biggest harp. It's like,
Yeah.
why can you hold when he's cutting and I can't run my offense?
Right.
I mean, I literally say I can't run my offense if they're holding my guy cutting to the basket.
See, why can't the offensive player hack those arms off of them?
Right. Yes.
Why not? You
And
know?
that does hinder the read and react when they're not calling that.
It does. No, you're right. Freedom of movement. Well, I think your best counter to that is you've just got to get the players and the ball moving faster. Then they have less chance to step in and get into your body and tag your body. Now, there's other little counters for this, and it's that if they are trying to bump you and get an arm bar on you when you're cutting, use that as a trigger to make your decision.
Okay.
Okay, so, like you said, you pass to me and you cut, right?
Right.
And
I'm arm barring you.
Hey, stop and post them up, and I'll throw it because usually when they're up next to you like that trying to body, it's real easy to leg whip, swim move, and post them up, right?
Okay.
All right. The other one is use that as a signal to go back screen right away. Just forget the cut. Not forget the cut, but forget finishing the cut.
Right.
And go on and screen for whoever. That
so
might
the back
be,
screen will counter that.
Yes. Now, Iowa's women a couple of years ago, I remember watching that. They didn't run it this year, but a couple of years ago, their post player would be on the weak side. All right. They would always start on the weak side. So, so the point passes the wing and cuts. Okay. If she cuts through unhindered, untouched, she would go on and do her thing, back screen on all this. But if any cutter ever cut and they got bumped or they got armbarred, stood up, they took it as a signal to screen for the post and invite the post over. See, the post is on the weak side, right?
Okay, yep.
And we even got to calling that an invitation screen. Okay, so you get stood up as a cutter. You get stopped. Oh, darn. Well, don't fight it. Just, hey, okay, I'm going to go invite the post player over.
Okay.
And now you got a cross screen and,
right.
In there.
Okay.
So
so you gave me one. I want another one. That was the first one? Yeah, after the draft.
And by the way, and before I leave the draft.
Yep.
See, any dribble at can turn into a draft. So let's go back to our situation. I now have the ball at the top of the key.
Okay.
You are on my right wing.
Yep.
Steve. I dribble at you. You cut. If I turn the corner and draft you, you've taken
your guy.
Yeah. You've taken the first helping defender away from. So a dribble at draft drive.
Okay.
I don't have to wait for the ball to be passed to me.
Right.
I could dribble at any teammate, send them to the goal, and draft them immediately.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, hey, look, that takes a little more than you do have to teach a little body language, change of speed, leaning in low with your shoulder, that kind of thing. But if you've got a little bit of deception in you as a player, a little bit of craftiness, every dribble at, it's an opportunity for two people. The person you're dribbling at might be open, and then you could turn the corner.
Okay.
And draft them. Okay. So draft drive. All right. The next one I would say that give you the most is pin screens.
Okay.
Because there's such a wide variety and so few teams do them.
And do them well.
And when they're done well, there's two people that's possibly open, the screener and the person you're throwing to, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So you get that whole, do you slip the screen or after you set the pin screen, the pin screener is rolling to the basket, they get to post up, whoever catches the skip.
Hey, Coach, so happy you're enjoying the video. Make sure you subscribe and like, and then go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It's a community of like-minded coaches that want to get better at coaching. Come over and join us, and let's head back to the video.